Imagine you're out in the city and you see a girl that you think is cute. And out of all the scenarios where you go about your day, you go to talk to her. And for God knows what, she gives you her Instagram. But when you check her Instagram, you see your boy already following her. What a bust. Welcome to the Small World Theory. Now, before we start, let's play a little game called 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you have to connect any random person to Kevin Bacon in the least amount of people. For this game, your person will be Steve, and don't use AI. You will have 1 minute, now go. This is exactly what the 6 degrees of separation theory is all about. The idea that any two people on Earth are connected through, at most, 6 or 7 people. This theory challenges the idea that we live in a vast disconnected world. Instead, it suggests that humanity is like one massive web, where each of us is just a few handshakes away from anyone else, whether that's a Hollywood actor, a political leader, or a random person in another country. The theory first appeared in 1929 when a Hungarian author whose name I won't even try to pronounce wrote a short story called Chains, proposing that modern technology and communication were shrinking the world. But it was later tested scientifically in the 1960s by a psychologist named Stanley Milgram, who conducted what he called the small world experiment. So what does the 6 degrees of separation theory argue? At its core, the theory claims that social networks are much more tightly connected than we realize. Milgram's experiment tested this by giving random people in Nebraska letters meant for a Boston stockbroker. Each person had to mail the letter to someone they personally knew, who they thought might be closer to the target. On average, the letters reached the target in about 6 or 7 steps, hence the phrase 6 degrees of separation. The idea became more famous through the 1990 play 6 Degrees of Separation, and later through social network study that tried to measure how small our world really is. Today, this theory has been revisited with modern technology. In 2008, researchers at Microsoft analyzed instant messaging data from 180 million people and found that the average path length between users was 6.6 connections, surprisingly close to Milgram's findings. In 2016, Facebook conducted its own study and found that the average distance between the users was about 3.57 degrees, showing how social media has made our world even smaller. So the theory's main points can be summarized like this: the world is more connected than it seems. Social networks, not geography, determine distance. Technology is accelerating that interconnectedness. Let's make this theory more relatable with some everyday examples. Speaking of Instagram, let's say you see a post of your favorite musician. I'm not gonna say who, but you notice that they are mutuals with someone you went to high school with. Suddenly, you're only 1 degree from a celebrity. Or think about LinkedIn. You apply for a job at a major company and realize one of your professors is connected to someone who works there. That's 2 degrees of separation. And that's how people use networking to find opportunities. Even smaller moments, this theory shows up. For example, you might meet someone while traveling who happens to know one of your classmates from a different city. It's that strange, right? Through all the noise and distance, human lives overlap. Personally, I've seen this play out in unexpected ways. I remember getting a call at like 11 at night from one of our favorite actors, Oscar Aguilar, who called me very urgently asking me if I knew the whereabouts of his brother, who was apparently on a date with this girl I used to be close with back in high school. And I remember when he mouthed out her Instagram, me and Michelle like wide-eyed. Thankfully, after I called her, they were both safe. Anyways, every time it happens, it reminds me of how interconnected we are. Like any theory, the 6 degrees of separation has both strengths and weaknesses. First, it emphasizes global connectivity, where it reminds us that isolation is often an illusion. that even across oceans or languages, we're still part of a shared human network. Secondly, it encourages collaboration and empathy. Knowing that we're all just a few links apart can make us feel more responsible for each other, and more curious about how our actions ripple across society. And thirdly, it's inspiring for innovation and problem solving. Platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, and even humanitarian efforts like 6degrees.org, founded by Kevin Bacon, are built on this ideas of connection. It helps us understand how ideas, trends, and even kindness can spread quickly. But like many theories, there are limitations. For one, it oversimplifies human relationships. Not all connections are equal. Knowing of someone isn't the same as having access to them. Just because I can find a celebrity like a celebrity's manager on LinkedIn doesn't mean I can actually reach them. Secondly, it ignores social inequality and digital divides. While social media connects many, millions of people still lack online access or live in communities with fewer cross-cultural ties. Their degrees might be much larger than 6. Lastly, it sometimes romanticizes connectivity. Being connected doesn't always mean being close. In a world full of followers and likes, we might feel more connected than ever, yet still lonelier than before. So while the 6 degrees of separation theory beautifully captures our interconnection, it also reveals the illusion of it, how closeness doesn't always translate into community. Now, let's get to the last question. Why did I choose this theory? Well, my family is military, so I spent most of my childhood moving from place to place. New schools, new friends, new states every few years. Because of that, I've always been fascinated by how people are connected, even when it feels like we're worlds apart. The small world theory suggests that everyone on Earth is connected by just a few degrees of separation, usually around 6 people. I've seen that play out in my own life more times than I can count. I'll meet someone in a completely different city, and somehow they'll know a friend or a teacher from my last base I lived on. Those moments like this make me feel like the world's smaller, like invisible threads are connecting us all together. I chose this theory because it perfectly reflects that part of my life. It explains why these coincidences happen and reminds me that no matter where I go, we're all linked by shared experiences and human connection. Growing up as a military kid taught me that the world isn't as big as or as distant as it seems. When I think about the 6 degrees of separation theory, it reminds me that the connection isn't just a social phenomenon, it's a lifeline. And during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, that idea feels especially relevant. Because even though we live in a world where everyone is only a few connections apart, many men still suffer in silence, often feeling like they have no one to turn to. They're told to man up, to stay strong, to keep it together, and that pressure isolates them even more. But if we take the 6 degrees of separation theory seriously, it means that help is closer than we think. It means that there's always someone, a friend of a friend, or a classmate, or a coworker who could be that one connection that makes a difference. A simple conversation, a check-in, or even just a moment of listening could bridge the gap between someone struggling or someone healing. It's easy to believe that we're alone in what we're going through, but statistically and socially, we're not. We're part of this web of relationships that's always there, even when we don't see it. That's what I found beautiful about this theory. It reminds us that we're never more than a few connections away from understanding, compassion, or support. So as we recognize Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, maybe the lesson here is simple. Reach out. Be that connection for someone. Because sometimes 6 degrees of separation can become one act of kindness that saves a life. There was also an R-rated movie called 6 Degrees of Separation directed by Fred Steppes, which follows the rich people of New York telling cocktail stories about Paul, played by Will Smith, where he manipulates his way into their lives by coming to their doorstep with a stab wound asking for help, which after they do, he swoons them over with his calming demeanor. Though all I got from this was Will Smith getting butt booty naked and having gay sex. To sum it up, the 6 degrees of separation theory suggests that we live in a small world, where every person is connected by just a few relationships. It's a theory that has evolved from Milgram's letters to Facebook algorithms, from paper trails to pixels, but it's a message that stays the same. Humanity is closer than we think, whether through friendship, chance, or shared experience. Our lives weave together in unexpected ways. It's all about networking, baby.